At the local big chain hardware store, OP found themselves in charge of a brand new project. Their micromanaging boss made this project extremely difficult, but OP dealt with them and gave them a taste of their own medicine. Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob, and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I have 3 stories for you from the ProRevenge subreddit. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Robin Graves. Manager forced to step down after mismanaging a new retail service. This one might be petty and definitely not as epic as some of the posts I've seen here, and I'm long-winded. Relevant background info first. Several years ago, I was working at one of the big hardware stores in my area. It's a household name and had some upward mobility with decent pay for the area. I never really found a niche there after my first year and a half. I learned quickly though, so they kinda made me a Swiss Army employee. I could work hardware, plumbing, mix paint, make keys, prepare contracts for installs, and knew all the features and flaws of the appliance models we sold. I was happy to do this because I was building a reputation as someone who could do everything. 2 years in, a new program was implemented that I was uniquely qualified to assist with. They created a new position for me. It was marketed as an all-in-one renovation remodel service for interiors. I was to assist the designer with product selection, product information, contracts, and local marketing for this service. Everyone involved was super excited about it. Note, I was still only making $10 an hour in 2015 for this. The problem was that because this was brand new, no one knew how it should work. The designer basically had to figure it out for herself, while I tried to catch her up with all of the store and product knowledge I had accumulated during my unique experience with the company. Issues with the program. 1. It was way too expensive. 2. Product to be used had to come from one of our stores, which was limiting. 3. No one knew about it. It was a rocky start. Coworkers would call me over to talk to customers if they mentioned working on a big project. But that's all we had. No completed jobs to reference or anything provided by corporate to get us running. We made our own stuff. I put together a video advertising the service and got the nod from management to use a company card to purchase a TV and media player to roll the video on repeat. We built vignettes in the store to showcase our design ability. I had been picking up a lot from the designer, so it ended up being a partnership in effect. The micromanager. Enter Devin, the assistant manager. He had actually been involved in the project from the beginning and had been pretty supportive and brought good energy at first. But I think he got fed up with issues that we couldn't control. Sloppy contractors refusing to fix things that they messed up, slow design process as customers worked out what they wanted, and people just backing out after taking a bunch of our time when they see the price. We were, on average, charging $3,000 more for a small bathroom remodel on labor alone. Consulting and design fees were also worked into the final cost. The product was discounted to basically being tax-free, but as I mentioned, options were limited to products the company sold. It was just too expensive to make many sales on the poorer side of town, where almost everyone knows some kind of contractor or tradesman with connections. It wasn't a good market for this program, but we did manage to start hitting and exceeding our numbers. Number 7 in the region for the brand new program was not bad. And just when we finally started getting some business and a rhythm, around 8 months in, Devin decided that it was not working fast enough for him. Obviously, the designer was to blame since he had no authority over the contractors or setting prices. She didn't know what she was doing, and he was going to make some changes. He honestly didn't do much besides hover, bring bad energy, and make terrible suggestions. He didn't understand the scope of what we had to do to get a customer out the door and happy. He forced us to cut corners and get the sale as quickly as possible without concern for liability, for basically destroying a room in someone's home to remake it, or what was realistic in terms of timelines. Customers felt rushed and got nervous. They backed out. We came to a standstill. We would only have 2 or 3 designs in progress at a time, but suddenly, after working our butts off building the program, we had no customers for the first time in 6 months. Obviously, Devin was not subjecting us to his authority hard enough. so he went harder and fired the designer. I lost my patience. Justice or injustice, I don't know. I'm a chill dude, but I had been working my butt off for this company, making peanuts on the promise that I was working towards something. I endured working for the incompetent managers that got their positions because they started working there at 18 and made it their life. The toxic alpha male, I will lead, you will follow BS was too much. So I started bullying him back, making fun of him in a teasing way where he couldn't really react without looking bad or losing control. I did that for a while, and he left me alone to run the program in the interim, since I was the only option. The designer and I had become friends though, so I was still mad about how it went down. I wasn't finished yet, but I didn't know what to do. Eventually, they got another designer and Devin had me moved back to what I had been doing before. Passed over for several promotions that I was more than qualified for. The market had been flooded with longtime employees that were being moved around. Bad luck, but I was done with the place. One day, we were sent an email link to an anonymous manager review survey. The store computers were set up with an always on and logged in user profile, so I wrote down the link and verified with a coworker that they weren't unique. In every department I visited that day, I wrote a review for Devin. All different ratings, some good, some bad, but I made the good ones so that they sounded bad, but as if I didn't know it was bad. I did that maybe 10 times. It wasn't character assassination or anything, I just opinion-based stuff with some vague examples so no one could figure out it was me. I didn't lie either, I just said what people don't usually say out loud. He would barely look at anyone after that. A couple of weeks later, he resigned his position as assistant manager and took an exterior design position at the other end of the store, as far away from the departments he had been over before. Basically, the same thing as what we had done with interiors, but he was in the designer's shoes. I left a couple of months later to work tech support for DHS, but while I was still in training for that, my friends from the store told me he had gotten fired. Maybe he learned something. He should have at least learned how my designer friend felt. They were both fired at Christmas. Jumping down to the comment section, we have one from a user called Please DM me small... never mind. Is your designer friend doing well? I was half hoping you two would start a company together. OP responded to this one and said, last I heard she was doing well. We lost touch over time. She moved back home with family and got a better job with an actual interior design firm. I liked the work at the time, but honestly, doing something like that in the age of Instagram leaves you with too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone has a hack or an idea to save time or money. Made things difficult. IT is a much better fit for me. I'm glad things worked out the way they did because I genuinely love the work I do now. What better way is there to deal with a micromanaging boss than have them demoted to a position the same as the one they were trying to undermine? That is freaking poetic. Have you ever noticed that with managers like this, they seem to think that their crap doesn't stink? They're very confident and decisive, even though everybody under them realizes how much of an idiot they are. It's like they have no self-awareness. This story comes to us from Oopsie Whoopsie. Oh, give me an attitude because you think you're entitled to see my son whenever you feel like it? I'll snitch you out to everyone. My mom, 56, and I, 26 female, have never had a good relationship. She's a narcissist, chooses men over her own family, and acts like her kids are an embarrassment and a burden. I am the youngest of 3, and all of us are polite, law-abiding citizens that have never gave her a reason to feel ashamed of us. Near the end of her marriage with her ex-husband, all 3 of us went no contact, but my older brother hadn't spoken to her in almost 10 years. I had moved 2,300 miles away, looking for a fresh start, and I was finally happy. My aunt, her sister, would give me unsolicited updates on her, and about 2 years into my new life, my mom's was crashing down. My aunt begged me to help her, and I stupidly did. I got my mom out of her abusive marriage, and she had to literally flee in the middle of the night and drive to me. Not 6 months after she left and her divorce was finalized, she breaks my no dating for 1 year rule because she's a serial dater and starts seeing this guy she works with. 3 weeks later, she moves in with him, leaving half her crap at my place. She lives 15 minutes away. I recently gave birth to my beautiful son almost 2 weeks ago. He is the best thing to have ever happened to my fiance and I, and we couldn't be happier. Well, maybe if my mom wasn't such a brat about everything. If I had to give a percentage to the amount of support I've received from her during my pregnancy and delivery, it's like 3%. I stupidly thought she'd be a mom and be there for me during my delivery. Instead, she sat on the recliner, bitched about how late at night and how tired she is, and when it came to actually pushing, she just sat on her phone playing Candy Crush. Seriously, the OB was about to kick her out. He was so annoyed. Mind you, I had been having non-stop back-to-back agonizing contractions for 4 hours, and I didn't call her until my water broke and they gave me the epidural for her to come in. Once my son was out and into the world, she stayed for maybe 10 minutes and then bounced because she was exhausted. I didn't engage her butthole nature because I wanted a stress-free labor. And that's just the Cliff Notes version of her behavior. There's a lot more and a lot worse. Oh, and to top it off, my son was born early morning on her and her boyfriend's 1-year anniversary. So apparently I ruined her special day. Because of her all-nighter that she claims to have pulled, she got a sinus infection, and I banned her from seeing my son until she gets better. Last Friday, she got the all clear from her doctor and we planned a 1 p.m. visit on Sunday. 12:30 p.m. she texts me, "I'll be by later." I asked her what time she needs to reschedule so that my son would be in a good mood for her. No reply. 5 p.m. rolls around and I asked her if she was coming over at all. She said, "No, I got an allergic reaction to poison oak and my eyes are swollen." Okay, whatever. I don't want that near my son anyways. I let her know that my father-in-law will be visiting this week, but my sister and nieces and her other daughter and granddaughters are making the 11-hour drive up this weekend. My amazing fiance, 27 male, is from Puerto Rico. He has 0 family that lives here. Everyone lives in Puerto Rico. His parents are going through a divorce after 28 years of marriage. Our son is their first grandchild. My father-in-law was in the States visiting his extended family when my son was born. He bought a $500 plus last-minute one-way ticket to see his grandson. It was also the first time I met him. He's a lovely man and even made me dinner his first night here. He wouldn't let me cook for him because I needed to rest. Like father, like son. My mom calls me and asks when she can see my son. I remind her that my father-in-law is here for only 3 days, but her daughter and granddaughters will be here this weekend, so it'll be even better for her to come over then. Oh no, that doesn't work for her. She gets pissy with me, asking why she can't visit during the week, essentially wanting to steal what precious little time my father-in-law has. She says, "I only want to visit for 15 to 20 minutes. Yep, that's short. She cannot for some reason bear to hang out with me for more than that, or she gets bored. Everything that I have in quotes are actual direct words from her, by the way. I ask her why she's being so bratty about this, and she says, "You know what? Never mind. Forget it. You can't make time for me, and you're making excuses to keep me away from my grandson." I tell her that she had her chance to see him Sunday, appointment made, and everything. I don't know why visiting this weekend would be so hard for her. She keeps copping more attitude and entitlement towards me, and I tell her that I'm done and hang up. And I'm done. She does not get to dictate when she sees my son. I even offered her a better opportunity, and she acted like a child, not getting the toy they wanted. So I told my sister. Then I got the grand idea of ratting her out to my aunt and grandma, since my mom loves to put on airs that she's been present in my life. So I did, and oh boy, are they pissed. While I am having a phone call with them, my mom is posting on her Facebook about how her kids are keeping her away from her grandkids, when all she does is try to support and be there for them. Of course, her friends are commenting saying that millennials these days think they can do whatever they want and not think about other people's feelings, and "So sorry they're treating you this way. You are a wonderful woman and you deserve to see your grandbabies. File for visitation under the grandparents' rights." Actual comments. and we let them know the real truth of how great of a grandma my mom really is. And I mean me, my sister, my aunts, because now both of my mom's sisters are involved instead of just the one, my fiance, and even my brother, who at this point went from no contact to light contact with her through association with me, all commented and told her friends the real truth, with screenshots to prove it. Now she's been crying and saying her friends are calling her fake and that I've ruined her social life. My grandma called her and told her that my grandpa would be ashamed of her if he knew how she'd been behaving. Don't paint me and my sister out to be the bad guy when you are the one who put yourself in this position. Maybe if you were actually the great mother and grandmother you pretended to be, we wouldn't be here. So did I snitch? Hell yeah, I snitched. I'm a mother now, and I will never be like her. In case anyone is wondering why I kept giving her chance after chance, she's my mom. All I ever wanted was my mom to love me and be my mom. My dad died tragically when I was 7, and I have felt like an orphan ever since. I've been a burden to her, and all I wanted was her maternal love. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called We Gone Ride. It says, I don't think of this as revenge, but as you setting a healthy and reasonable boundary with someone who sounds backcrap crazy. I'm proud of you for not giving in to your mom's manipulative behavior. Congratulations on your new baby boy. Another user called I'm a Mean One commented, protect your children from all toxic people, no matter who they are. Protect your son. That's your job as a mom. Spoil your son if you want. Make him a mama's boy. I love my mom. That's a mom's prerogative. Be an absolute C to anyone who tells you how to be a mom or how to raise your son. F them all. I'm that way with my daughter, and I have no mercy with anyone who tries to get between us, even blood family. OP, one thing to keep in mind is you really don't need to keep a relationship with your mother. It's not improving your life or your well-being at all. In fact, I think keeping that relationship with your mom is causing you massive stress. That combined with a new child is really not good for your physical or mental health. Keep in mind, narcissists do not change, and you've given her enough chances. It's time to go no contact and not go back. This story comes to us from Traveling ABC. Former manager made my life hell, and I finally got her fired. I was desperate to join a new job after my husband and I were both laid off last year. When I was offered a new role, I knew it would be a step down from what I was doing. But the manager and the team seemed great, and that part has not changed. However, since my manager Gary was so busy, he basically offloaded me to another manager, Jane. I was supposed to be the connection point between my team and Jane, but it quickly became Jane micromanaging me. She would ask me to work through lunch, move and cancel vacation days, call at 11 p.m. on weekends, and order me around on phone calls. She also made nasty comments about my weight and said I was big for my race. The list of personal slights so long that it filled 3 pages. I would talk back to her, and she did not like that, and that provoked her more. I only stayed because we needed to pay the bills. Finally, I had a mental breakdown on a Friday afternoon after she yelled at me for something trivial about scheduling a meeting without including someone from her team who I didn't know about. I was dealing with a family tragedy and couldn't take it anymore. I told Gary about the situation with Jane, and he was sympathetic and not at all surprised, considering half her team quit. He immediately offered to move me to a different team under him. I was thrilled. Well, turns out going to the new team didn't help. Jane continued to order me around from afar. When I ignored her emails, she came to my desk one day and started loudly talking about how I am not qualified for this role. Gary overheard and finally told her off, but the verbal abuse did not stop. After 2 months there, I abruptly wrote my resignation letter and stapled the list of Jane's offensive comments and CC'd everyone. Gary offered a bunch of accommodations to try to keep me, but seeing how she was still provoking from afar, I said the only way for me to stay would be for her to go, and he did not have the authority to let her go. Her manager was in a different country, and despite several HR complaints from at least 5 people, nothing was done. So I left, loudly and without shame, telling everyone exactly why I was leaving. Times were very bad for 3 months. There were nights we would eat slices of bread just so we could pay the mortgage and emergency expenses from a health crisis and a funeral. Even after he found a job, we were still catching up on bills and still are. I spent months applying to 5 to 10 roles per day, sometimes over 20. Last month, I saw a public memo about a big shot from a former company joining the company I just left. I used to work with this guy closely and texted him a "Congrats, let me know if you need any insights on the new place." We had a quick call where I told him some ins and outs where I thought they could innovate. After this call, he asked me to join the team as his chief of staff. I accepted. Imagine Jane's shock when we had our first all-hands call. All the VPs and above were asked to welcome the new big shot in a giant conference room. In Big Shot's speech, he breezed over that I'll be his chief of staff, along with a few key names. I now sat 2 levels above Jane, and apparently, within the 3 months I was not there, the other half of her team turned over. Every single person left. Gary was excited for me and said all nice things. However, Jane took the classless route and sent Big Shot an email about how I'm an unqualified idiot, that I used to work for her, how I tried to get her fired, and that she suspects I lied to get ahead. She didn't even try to be fake nice. Big Shot forwarded me her email and asked what this was about. I was so nervous and excited. Little did Jane know I was a director at Big Shot's competitor company and was already a level above her. So 2 levels isn't a big leap, and I worked with him for 5 years. I had an hour call with Big Shot and told him she was bad for the company culture and was a nasty person in general. But the evidence he needed was Gary confirming that her whole team has turned over. My prior resignation letter, which was still sitting on my desktop when I logged in upon return, and a few other nasty emails she sent her recent staff, which they were happy to share with us. Big Shot fired Jane on Friday. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Marnarch73. It says, "I applaud your efforts, and I'm super happy with this outcome. However, I am routinely disgusted by how difficult it is to get rid of people that are well known to be genuinely awful." Another user down below called Kingdom Hearts is Light said, "I really hate when a staff member is so toxic that they are driving other staff away, which costs the company money, and don't address it in any way, shape, or form. Listen to your staff." I've said this many other times in other videos, a boss can't do their job effectively unless they know the roles of all the people underneath them. If you really don't know how to do the work, how can you manage the people doing the work? These kind of bosses, when they start getting called out for what they're doing, they just get angry and try to use their power over you to cover up the fact that they're inept at their job. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.